I scurried after Miss Thorne's quickly retreating back, the lens in its bag tucked under my arm so it wouldn't bang against my legs, as I quick walked down the hall. More unmarked doors passed to my left and right, most with frosted glass windows or no windows at all. The rooms must be smaller, I thought to myself, seeing more doors crowded closer together as we approached a T at the end of the hall. Left, I guessed to myself, then watched with some bemusement as Miss Thorne turned sharply to the left. I quickened my pace and hoped there weren't too many more turns ahead. Just as I hit the intersection, something caught my attention to my right. I'd seen the flash of a familiar face turned towards me out of the corner of my eye as I had hurried past the half-open doorway. Skidding to a stop, I backed up fast. It was Officer Wilkins, sitting at a table in a room almost too small for the table and chair in it. He looked across the table, so I took another step back and saw Officer Farley, seated across from him. "Hey there! Nice to see you," I said with a half wave. "Gotta run, doing stuff in the lab. Have a good day, bye." Silently, my brain started shooting off questions. What the heck were they doing there? Why were they watching my interview with Detective Lucero? No time for any of that now. I had to catch up with my guide. I lurched forward and trotted around the corner to the left, seeing Miss Thorne walking back towards me. Well, that was awkward. Farley barely glanced up from his cell phone and grunted. "Do you think she knew we were listening in?" Farley shrugged. "Jesus, would you say something? It's like I'm talking to the wall here." Farley frowned and closed the app on his phone, pushing it to the side as he looked at his partner. "What do you want me to say?" "Well, she wouldn't have seen us if you hadn't opened the door." "I don't like small spaces." Farley frowned and glanced at the wall. "So I noticed." Wilkins tried again. "Do you think she knew we were listening in?" "What does it matter? Why do you care what she knows or thinks? You got a thing for her?" Wilkins frowned at Farley. "Of course not. Don't be stupid." Farley winced. "Well, it certainly seems like a big deal to you." Wilkins signed. It's the only lead we've got right now." "If you can call it a lead," Farley snorted. "What do you mean, if you can call it a lead? What else have we got?" "Well, we have the reports of a red sports car in the area." Farley didn't sound all that impressed with his own statement. "At least that is something tangible, something other people can see and report. This thing, whatever you want to call it, the lens is what I think it's called, I think." "Right, the lens. That's not a lead by any definition. It is weird, and I don't like it. I don't like any of it. Not that anyone cares about my opinion." Farley pulled his phone back in front of him and opened the CNN Sports app again. "Well, don't hold anything back. Tell me how you really feel." Wilkins' mouth was pursed. Farley thought it made Wilkins look a bit like a fish. "You ask me a question, I'll tell you no lies." Farley snorted and chuckled. "Right. Well, I guess we just wait here and sit it out until Lucero calls us." Farley nodded again. Wilkins sighed, glancing at the speakerphone to his left. "At least I don't think she saw the phone sitting there." "Oh my God, will you just give it up already?" Farley managed to scoot his chair back 3 inches before hitting the wall behind him. "Stupid tiny-ass room anyway." He went back to scrolling through the current sports stories. The speakerphone let out a loud squawk. "Gentlemen, would you please join me in my office?" Farley and Wilkins both jumped and looked at the phone. "Sure, be right there," Wilkins said, shoving his chair back before hitting the wall behind him. "Damn, how the hell do we get out of here anyway?" He quickly stood up and leaned back against the wall, pulling the table towards him so his partner could get out. "Here, hurry up. I feel like a sardine in a tin can here. You go, wait outside, then I can get out of here." Farley nodded and slid along the wall towards the doorway, wishing he had a few less pieces of bacon with his breakfast this morning. Wilkins followed him a moment later, and they both hurried down the hall. "Don't want to keep Lucero waiting on us, that's for damn sure," Wilkins muttered to Farley, who grunted his agreement. What more could he say? "I'm fine. Sorry, just saw someone I know," I called out. Miss Thorne waved me forward and turned back, walking briskly down this new corridor. No doors on this side. This must be a backside or a side wall to the rooms I'd passed earlier. Still curious, I saw Miss Thorne stop at the single door at the end of the hall, with a large opaque glass window and tall black letters that said "Lab" in the middle of the glass pane. She pulled a key card from her pocket and slid it through the scanner, then turned the knob and opened the door as I caught up to her. "This is the lab," she said with a smile over her shoulder as we entered. I looked around me. All I could see was white. White walls, floor, and ceiling. Even the interior of the door was white. Breaking the monochrome palette was stainless glass steel sinks and overhead exhaust fan hoods, gas and electric burners, and other equipment scattered throughout, with refrigerators, shelves, cabinets, all wearing unreadable signs and labels along the wall. If not for all the scientific equipment scattered about, it could almost be a replica of the White Room. I discounted that weird thought with a small shake of my head and followed Miss Thorne into a small interior room where the warning sign for radiation front and center on the entry door, making me feel ever so much more comfortable. I followed her into this room and she closed the door behind us, then walked to a workstation with various kinds of equipment alongside white counters. Let's get an x-ray of your little device first, shall we? See what we can see and all that? She smiled at me and extended a hand. I placed my bag on the counter. Where do you need me to put the lens? I asked, opening the lid with the case still inside the bag. I glanced at her, waiting. She frowned and turned back to the equipment before her. Lifting the cover off one section, I could see the dark glass of an x-ray scanner. Just put it on the glass there on its side. Try to get it as close to the center as you can, she directed me. I'll get us a couple aprons. Aprons. Oh, got it. Protective lead cover so we didn't expose ourselves to toxic radiation. She pulled 2 aprons off hooks in a small closet, handing one to me as she pulled the second over her head, tying it briskly in the back. I put my own on awkwardly, the neck loop getting caught momentarily in my hair tie. May I asked, motioning towards the scanner. She moved aside slightly, so I slid next to her and placed the lens carefully on the glass, not letting go of it completely as I glanced at Miss Thorne. Is this okay? Sure, she answered with a shrug. Okay. Do we need to put anything on top of it, or go in another room, or just come back here with me? That thing's not going to roll off or anything, is it? I glanced at the lens laying there on the darkened glass, my hand still hovering over it. It seemed so out of place there, and I really was afraid it would roll off and hit the floor, but it seemed to be pretty stable for the moment. If no one bumps the counter or anything, I think it's okay. All right, come back here. Behind this divider, we both walked around a half wall, various dials, buttons, and gauges set into it. She turned a couple of dials, muttering something under her breath that I couldn't understand, then said, okay, imaging now, and flipped a switch up, then immediately down again. A double click sounded from the counter on the other side of the wall, and my gaze flew up to the lens, still sitting on the glass. I slipped around her to where the lens sat and retrieved it, exhaling silently in relief. Aprons off, we're done with imaging, she instructed, smoothly pulling her apron off over her head. I hastily put the lens in its case and pulled my own apron off, handing it to her with a mumbled thank you. Is there film or something that needs to be developed? I asked, feeling foolish. Oh gosh, no. That's dinosaur tech. Everything's digitalized now. Our computer took a picture of your little device so we can look at it right now. No more nasty, clunky film panels, thank God, she added. I nodded. I knew so little about this kind of thing. She could have told me it was imaged on the moon and reflected back by way of solar mirrors. I would have believed her.